Hello, good morning to all. Hello, good morning to all. Hope I am audible.
Yes, you are audible. Is this Neha?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Once again, good morning to all. Hope you all are doing well. I, Miss Neha Mishra, on behalf of Chandrabhan Sharma College, welcome you all on fifth day of 1 week online FDP program on outcome-based education. Today's topic is teaching pedagogy under outcome-based education. Now, I would like to welcome Ms. Shushmita Rajpurohit for introducing our esteemed resource person. Hand over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. A very good morning to one and all present. The resource person for our fifth day of 1 week online faculty development program, Outcome Based Education, is Dr. Farheen Ahmed, Coordinator of Academic Planning and Review Committee and WDC. Ma'am is an astute educationist and a university approved faculty who works towards the goal to achieve excellence in management, teaching, and learning. Ma'am bagged more than a decade of experience in various fields, from initially contributing to the marketing industry. She has also been a freelance soft skill trainer to various college visiting faculties to colleges and presently taking the role of management a research reviewer to a few online journals. She consistently contributes to the research field by writing, presenting, and publishing her researches in various national and international conferences and journals. Attending various recognized faculty development programs and knowledge enriching webinars is her way to stay relevant during this pandemic time. Her interest lies in active coordination at work module and SOPs development and is actively involved in college accreditation work contributing from her end towards quality education. We welcome you, ma'am, and now I would request you to take the session further. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sushmita, for the good introduction. Okay, so I will just be presenting my screen. I hope it's allowed. Sushmita, just help me with whether you can see the screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll quickly just give me a minute. Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. So, first of all, very good morning to all of you. We are here with a good intention to learn, unlearn, and learn at the same point of time. So, I'll be contributing towards the 1 week FTP, which Chandrabhan College has programmed in alignment with Rajiv Gandhi College of Management Studies. Today is the fifth day of our FTP. But before we start, I will just request all the participants to kindly be on mute while the session continues. Post that, we will be having a small question and answer session. Whatever questions you have, you can paste it in your chat box, few of which I will try to answer in the meantime. And if there is any query pertaining to the session which I'm going to take today, you can always write to me or at farheenahmed@rgcms.edu.in. So coming to today's session, talking about teaching pedagogy with respect to OBE. When we say this, this is something that academicians, educationists have been using it knowingly and unknowingly. But nowadays, teaching pedagogy, when we talk about teaching pedagogy, it is the concepts have changed. The terminology actually defines a lot of different stature that that an academician as an as an educationist you can incorporate while you are trying to give away knowledge and learnings to the students. So on pertaining to that, today's learning outcomes will touch base upon these few stuff, such as pedagogy, the basic concepts and importance of the same. We will get into having an understanding of Bloom's taxonomy levels, the various types of knowledge. How do we take care of the course syllabus review? There is something. This is something which is new to the audience. This is cognition knowledge matrix activity that I'm going to talk upon. We will talk about having a basic intention of understanding how do we create course outcome and but of course using all of these how do we create a a better well planned lesson plan deriving right and weak learners and of course course outcome further. Talking about pedagogy, pedagogy is basically a method of teaching, both as an academic subject or it is a theoretical concept. So, the way the adaptation of any kind of method, whenever you are willing to teach, is what pedagogy is all about. So, when we talk about, why are we nowadays we emphasize on what basically if you go to the interviews or if you are sitting into your academics committee as well. Pedagogy is something which is given high, big, a lot of importance. So why so? Why is it so important in teaching primarily? Because it gives teachers an insight into the best practices for a classroom setting. It will help you improve the quality of your teaching as it will be received by the students. So the better you are well aware of what are you basically going to give to the students, the better you will be able to deploy in front of the students, and therefore they'll be able to receive an equal amount of quality output from you. So it also helps further helps in terms of improved students participation. If we as teachers go inside the class having a planned setup, having a thought process behind what are we going to teach with respect to a unit or with respect to a module, and if there are activities planned, if there are different sort of other pedagogies aligned with your unit, it actually creates an inclusive learning setup for students, which of course pulls them to participate in the needful knowledge. In fact, is pedagogy is important because it helps knowledge imparted effectively across a spectrum of learners. Now when we talk about this point, the having a good planned pedagogy will let you impart different kinds of different levels of knowledge to the student across a spectrum of learners. When we talk about spectrum of learners, we need to understand as teachers that students in a class are not equal. So you will have different varieties of students in per se of how they perceive, how they are, what kind of learners they are. So we are going to touch base this in the further slides as well. And also pedagogy helps in terms of development of higher cognitive skills among students. So when the moment we say cognitive skills, it is not only remembering the concepts, it is not only understanding the concept, but involving pedagogy, teaching pedagogy in such a way that your student will be able to use that concept, it will and rather will be able to apply it somewhere. It will use those concept in terms of analyzing things, evaluating things. In fact, for that matter, the highest cognition levels which a student you can take your students towards is to create something new out of your well taught concepts and theories. So coming to OBE, teaching pedagogy with respect to OBE, we first need to understand as educationists or as an academician or as teachers that what is an OBE framework. So the moment we say OBE framework, in fact, and in fact, for that matter, OBE is one of the primary need of the current national education policy. So the education policy also triggers, in fact, it is basically asked the institutes to take up outcome based education, wherein the diagram that we see on the screen in front of our screens is something that needs to be in sync of each other. The moment I say this, as we all can see, the innermost circle has lesson outcomes. So the moment I say lesson outcomes, it talks about how each particular course or a subject is, basically planned, and with what objectives it is planned. So the lesson outcomes are also, these are your total lesson plan that you're going to take care of. What a student will be able to cull out of a particular topic or a particular, subject altogether are your core objectives of your plan. Surrounding the circle we have got is a course outcome or a unit outcome. So this is where the intervention of each respective faculty members comprises of these two innermost circles are being made and taken care of each of us as faculties. We need to plan our subjects in such a way that we should be able to derive out something what is called as course outcome statements. These will be the primary objectives with which you will be teaching your students your respective subjects, and aligning it with the core lesson outcomes. The out of two circles basically talks about the program outcomes and the institution outcomes. When I talk about program outcomes, it may be any program that a particular teacher is, teaching. So it can be BBI, it can be a BMS program, it can be an MMS program, it can be engineering. So irrespective, so there are n number of programs that are available. In fact, the accreditation bodies do give you, the well-defined program outcomes for different programs. So one needs to adapt those programs and make sure that in the purview of 3 years, if it is a graduate course or if there is if it is a postgraduate course. So let's say if it is an MBA, so it is of 2 years. So within those 2 years, what a student is going to acquire out of that programs are those program outcome statements. So everything has to be right from the start of your planning for your course, while planning for the lesson plan, planning for the course outcomes for a particular course. Integratively, all the course when aligned together should be contributing towards the third circle, that is our program outcomes. But of course, when once we contribute towards a particular program outcomes, a good established college or any institute has multiple programs aligned together. All of those program outcomes for each particular programs should be aligned to something what is called as the institute outcomes. So when we talk about institute outcomes, it is nothing but your vision and mission of your institute. This vision and mission of your institute, everything, whatever programs are an institute offers, it has to be in alignment. The program outcomes has to be in alignment with the vision and mission. So basically this sort of a Venn diagram shows and tells us that right from the vision and mission till going cohesively for each program, and under each program for every subject, outcome based education is that keenly aligned right from the top till the bottom. Talking about pedagogy usage in OBE. So when we talk about that we want to basically practice outcome based education. This is basically there are multiple colleges who are basically in the process of accreditation. They are taking up NAC. They are taking up NBA accreditation work. So they are quite well acclaimed. They are having this knowledge about Bloom's taxonomy. Now, I would just like to give you a basic review of what is Bloom's taxonomy. This is basically a scaling taxonomy a study diagram that is available to us, that helps us understand how we can give away different levels of cognition for in our teaching and learning, teaching pedagogy, as well as it also talks about the different types of knowledge that one can impart out of a particular subjects. So before I go for the level of cognition, I would first like to take all of you to the types of knowledge. So when we talk about teaching pedagogy, a faculty has to be able to understand and differentiate between different types of knowledge that could be a part of your syllabus of your course per se. Okay, the moment we say different types of knowledge, every course or majority of the courses have something which is very common in most of the courses, that is factual knowledge. Okay, so each course or each subjects has terminologies, concepts, specific details, specific elements. So such kind of concepts, such kind of basic things, basic information that comes out becomes a part of your syllabus is your factual knowledge. Okay, something that cannot be changed, and it will remain as it is. All your definitions, these are a part of factual knowledge. The second which we have got is conceptual knowledge. Now conceptual knowledge basically aligns you with all sort of information, all sort of teaching materials that can be classified, categorized, the different types of principles, generalizations, theories, models, structures. So taking these small pointers in hand, one should be able to understand and categorize your syllabus into conceptual knowledge. The third form is the procedural knowledge. Okay, many a times when we teach a particular subject, there will be processes, there will be procedures, there will be steps involved into different kinds of subject specific skills or algorithm. These all type of a part of your syllabus becomes procedural knowledge. Okay, that can be categorized as procedural knowledge. This basically helps the criteria for defining when to use appropriate procedures or no. And the fourth and the most complex type of knowledge is metacognitive knowledge. Here, a lot of implication. This is a part of area of knowledge which basically involves innovation in practice. It involves application in practice. So here you can categorize your syllabus if it has a certain sense of strategic knowledge, knowledge where cognition task includes appropriate contextual and conditional knowledge or self knowledge. So if you will see, these four levels of knowledge basically helps us define and understand what are we basically going to teach to the students. So as teachers, when we talk about teaching pedagogy with respect to OBE, the first step is to understand the types of knowledge. What are you basically handling, and what are you going to deploy to the kids in the classroom? So that is your first in hand, that is type of knowledge. The next we have got is levels of cognition. Now, once we have categorized the different types of knowledge that is inhibited in our prescribed syllabus, whether you are affiliated to any university or you are an autonomous college, if there is a syllabus, you will be easily be able to categorize the different types of knowledge. Once that is done, we need to also have an understanding of what are the different parameters of cognition at which a student can be made to understand a particular concept or made to learn a particular different types of knowledge at different levels of cognition. Now when I talk about Bloom taxonomy, as the screen shows, it gives us nearly around six cognition levels, wherein the bottommost talks about remembrance. Okay, so the Bloom taxonomy talks about ki whenever we try to learn something, or we want to teach something to the student, the first thing is that they need to have the recall value. They need to have remembrance cognition. So if I go without any preparation, I'm just going and giving out a lecture, the least what a student can take is to is to remember whatever has been said in the class. That is remembrance. Next we have got is understanding. Understanding is the second level of cognition of learning, wherein a student will be able to understand the ideas and concepts well. Okay, so that is where they'll be easily be able to describe, explain, identify, recognize what was taught earlier. That is this level of learning. Third learning is the application learning, wherein the level of cognition is called as apply, wherein you will basically have different pedagogies aligned for the students so that they'll be able to apply what has been understood by them as a particular concept of knowledge. So let's say it can be basic. Let's say if there's formulas which you have taught, okay, and those formulas are to be used for the purpose of giving out the answers, so that will be application. Okay, next what we have, the fourth part of taxonomy, Bloom's taxonomy, the level of cognition gives is analyzing power, to analyze, wherein a student will be able to analyze the learning which he has understood very well. Let's say if you're giving a case study in the class and you tell them, you know what, you just read the whole thing, draw connection with the concept, and then analyze the given situation. So that is where they basically use their brain to a certain level wherein they not only remember and understand the concept which has been taught, but also try to apply those concepts and analyze the given situation. Then next what the Bloom taxonomy gives is it's the fifth level of cognition, that is called as evaluate. Okay, so evaluation is that category of cognitive learning wherein a student will be able to, in fact, once they have analyzed the situation, they'll be able to evaluate it. In fact, give their very own perspective to the current situation. So that's called as evaluation. And the last and the topmost pyramidal structure of cognitive learning is create. That is where you give the flexibility to a student as a learner to produce something new or something out of the box. You can say it can be an opportunity for them to create something, construct something, right? So as teachers, we need to understand that whenever we talk about teaching pedagogy, a lot of thought process goes across before we just get into planning for their lesson, write up their lesson plans for a particular course, right? So first of all, the earlier that we have seen is the levels of knowledge. Today, at present, what we are talking about is the levels of cognition. So it is remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and then create. I would expect all the academicians, if this is something which is new to you, give it a good read. This is something that actually, increases your perspective towards how should you basically go in the class, how should you prepare well in the class, and make your class a much better class in the long run. Now, coming to reviewing your course syllabus. Now, this is something which we at our institute do very often. Before the term starts, this is done. So, because ours is an affiliated college, we what we use is a university published syllabus. If you are an autonomous institute, you will of course use your very own device syllabus. Okay, when this thing needs to be done, it is usually suggested that before the commencement of the semester or the term, once the subject has been allocated to the faculty, the first practice that the whole faculty team must do is to review their course syllabus. Now, syllabus is typically categorized into modules, units, and activities. It is important to review and understand suggested learning objectives and learning outcomes. Like let's say, for example, like because we are under Mumbai University in the syllabus gives their very own course objectives. So before I get into teaching that syllabus to the students, I as a teacher, I as a faculty must have a clear understanding of what is it that the university is wanting us to impart to the students. So having the review and understanding of the suggested learning objectives and outcomes, as well as the techniques of teaching pedagogy, as these will become major inputs in your lesson planning. Now, what we see on the screen is a syllabus copy, a specimen copy, what we have drawn. This is my own very own subject. This is an elective subject. So before we get into the class, the first thing that we do is to make sure that each of the student knows about the subject name, how much credit does the university gives to them, how much duration of hours does the university expect them to give away, no, to basically them to be imparted with the knowledge, different learning objectives, and the modules, of course, is given with the activity also. So when we say key activity is also mentioned here, the intention of the university is that we need to take up different sort of activities while we are trying to deploy different units, different modules in front of the students. Now, once the course syllabus is reviewed well and it is well communicated in the class, the second thing that one can do, and in fact we do it very proudly at our institute, is to create cognition knowledge matrix. So, taking the base of cognition knowledge matrix, as we all know, one needs, as a faculty, you need to have clarity about your university syllabus has to be there in your hand. Your syllabus for your allotted course should be there in your hand. And the second thing is you need to have a clear understanding of Bloom taxonomy altogether, which of course involves levels of knowledge clarity and cognition of levels of cognition's clarity. So once that is done, before commencement of the semester, one subject is once it is allocated, you must get into the practice of creating cognition knowledge matrix. Now, this CK matrix helps in deriving out your course outcomes, cognition learning hours. This basically gives you a clear head of how much learning hours. Let's say, for example, if 40 hours is the expected number of hours a teacher is expected to teach to the students. So out of those 40 hours, what will be the learning hours for, let's say, unit number one, or let's say unit number two? Or if you're categorizing it with respect to course outcomes, if you have made course outcomes already, then how much number of hours are you aligning with in terms of dealing with students for each course outcome? So that is where that comes from cognition knowledge matrix. This basically such kind of matrix activity helps you arrive at the cognition levels for creation of course outcome. It also helps you create the better lesson plan. Now, as you all can see, here is a specimen copy of CK matrix. What we have done here is at the top, the earlier things that we discussed is the knowledge levels. We saw that knowledge levels are of four types: factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. At the side, we have got cognition levels, which are again remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So depending upon, and then we of course have the legends which we wherein U is equal to a unit, whichever you're going to whichever comes across from your syllabus. The bracket is basically the bracket over here shows number of sessions of 1.5 hours each. A is nothing but the activity. So this activity again can be recoded as, so the activity that we take here is either you are taking lecture, so lecture will be A1, interactive teaching it will be A2, role play, if you're taking role play it will be A3, if it is a case study it will be A4. Okay, practicals, group discussion. So depending upon whatever is your teaching pedagogy aligned as per your syllabus, you can give activities different codes. And by using this thing, what we can do is that we can implant. Okay, let's say for example in unit number one, I would like the students to have an interactive session first, just so as to understand whether unit number one having an interactive session A2 for 1.5 hours. So the first lecture that I'm going to take will be in terms of understanding how much of the student know about a particular concept already. So that was our intention. That was my intention to basically showcase how so that is how I plan my first thing. The next thing, what you feel, if you will see unit number one, A1 2. So after the first session, next two sessions were aligned with for unit number one in terms of imparting the basic concepts for the particular subjects. And likewise, so if you will see, and then again you will see here in procedural level, unit number 1 A3. So basically unit number 1 got completed with four sessions. Here it was interactive teaching, here it was proper lecture, here it was A3. A3 was again with respect to, here it was role play. So I had basically involved some activity for them. So if you plan it in this manner, you are actually going very scientifically in terms of what you are going to deploy in, as a teacher in front of the student. So that is CK matrix for you. Now, once that is done, once this is clear, you will be easily be able to put up your lesson plan very specifically. Then comes is your creation of course outcome. The moment we say course outcome, people who are not not quite acclaimed as far as NBA and NAC accreditation, for them it is a big it is actually a little complicated. But course outcomes, basically to give you a basic definition, this is nothing but objectives with which a student will take up any course. So at the end when you complete your course, it is basically assumed that your students will be able to have all the skills, all the objectives that you have set up for that course within them, so that that skill set basically gets acquired by the students. That is what course outcome statements are. So even when we say that you have to create course outcomes for a subject, you will basically be needing two things. First is your syllabus again, and then of course your CK matrix. So when you basically can create this before commencement of your semester, once your subject is allotted, this is again an individual activity that every faculty is flexible enough to use the inputs and draw your course outcomes. So course outcomes are basically or what a student will be able to do at the end of the course. The most important aspect of the course of a CO course outcome is that it should be actionable, observable, and measurable. When I say this, when one cannot create a statement that is completely vague. It cannot be a statement which can never be measured, and it cannot be a statement which is not achievable in nature, right? So whenever we create course outcome statement, it has to be realistic as achievable and as measurable as possible. Talking about syllabus units and course outcomes, they need not be correspondence between units of a course and all the course outcomes altogether. One course outcome may correspond to more than one unit present in any of the syllabus. Let's say, to put it in a simple manner, if I want to create course outcomes, a course outcome cannot be more than five or six, right, for a particular course. So if you're using this number, you need to understand that you may have around, say, let's say 12 or 13 units. So one needs to, as a faculty, you have complete flexibility in terms of aligning units in such a way that they can be grouped together and that particular group can go for one course outcome. So if there are 12 units in your syllabus, you can easily create five or six course outcome statement, each having 1 to 2 units in group and in alignment with the same. Talking about the number of course outcomes, too less number of course outcomes will not capture the course in sufficient details and may not serve instruction details that well. Too many course outcome will make the processes related to assessment designs and computation of attainments of CO quite messy and demanding. So any ratio of 3 is to 0 0 or 3 is to 1 is to 0 or 3 is to 0 1. So here, when I talk about these ratios, three is the amount of learning hours per week for a particular course. One is amount of if your pattern is with reference to practical sessions, or if your patterns so if out of any kind of program that basically his courses which has any of these patterns, courses should have about 5 to 6 course outcome only. Each subject will have more for about 5 to 6 course outcome. It cannot be more than that. Okay. MMS programs courses mostly follow 3 is to 0 0 pattern. That is, 3 is nothing but classroom sessions per in terms of hours per week, 0 laboratory sessions, and 0 field sessions. Here the pattern, hence 5 to 6 course outcome per course is expected. Now coming to once you have understood the number of course outcome and what is course outcome, how should I know the next big question comes into a faculty's mind is how should I make a course outcome statement when I said that a course outcome statement has to be actionable, it has to be measurable, and it has to be realistic in nature, right? It achievable in nature. So in those contrasts, we need to understand that even the course outcome statement has a structure. Now, basically, as we all can see on the screen, there are four defined criterias for which basically forms the structure of a particular course outcome. The first one is action, which is again a mandate element for course outcome preparation. So whenever you say that I'm going to sit to make my course outcome statement, first thing that you have to align your subjects syllabus with is the action verb. Okay, this basically presents a cognitive activity the learner should perform, and action is inclined by an action verb. Let's say if I say that my first course outcome will be to understand XYZ concept. So understanding is my action verb, and this understand it comes from the level of cognition. Next we have got is the knowledge. Now knowledge is the mandate element again of forming your course outcome statement. Knowledge, ये knowledge कहाँ से आता है? How, from where are we taking this knowledge? So this knowledge is nothing but the specific knowledge that comes from one or more of your knowledge categories combined in the units grouped together to frame an output, to frame an outcome. So that is knowledge. So when you say ki I have clubbed unit number 1 and unit number 2, and I want to use these two units to frame a course outcome, whatever is there in whatever core concept is there in unit number 1 and unit number 2 becomes your knowledge, and how do you want to impart it becomes your action. Okay, so if you say that I want to apply, I want the students to apply this to knowledge, core knowledge in the first course outcome, so that is how you're going to prepare the same. So for every course outcome statement, these two things are mandate. First is the action and the second one is the knowledge. Whereas there are also two other criteria that are there for framing up a course outcome statement. This is condition and criteria. The moment I say condition and criteria, these are two optional elements. What does it mean? It basically means that first of all, condition represents the process the learner is expected to follow to the condition under which to perform particular action, and criteria represent the parameters that characterize the applicability levels of performing the action. Now, many a times when you have a unit, it will be plain concepts which must be imparted to the students. There would be no condition, there would be no criteria as aligned. Hence, it is these two things are quite optional. It depends upon the course and the complexity of the course, whether it has conditions in terms of teaching and or criteria in terms of teaching the same. Now, final checklist to follow. So once you have prepared the, your basic course outcome statement, what one needs to do is that does the course, you basically ask a lot of questions to yourself. So those questions are, does the CO begins with an action verb? So if it doesn't begin with an action verb, you need to rectify that and make sure that any kind of cognition is aligned with that statement. Is the CEO started in terms of student performance rather than teacher's performance or course content to be covered? So the statement has to be prepared in such a way that what your student will be able to. So it has to be output based statement from the student performance level. Okay, is a CEO stated as a learning product rather than a learning process? So that you also again have to check. Is the CEO stated at a proper level of generality and relatively independent to other CEOs? So basically, it also talks about whenever we frame course outcome statement, no two course outcome statement can be dependent on each other because they are completely different objectives. Okay. Is the course outcome attainable in the given context? Let's say student study background, prerequisite competencies, facilities, time available, and so on. So the moment we say that your course outcome statement has to be achievable, let's say your term is of 3 months only. Okay, after 3 months you have examinations in place for the students. So you have to make only those goals, only those course outcomes which can be achieved in the next 3 months available for you for teaching. So that is how attainability of the course outcome has to be well planned. And are the course outcome peer reviewed? The last question that you asked is that whether your course outcome has been peer reviewed by other faculties or no. Now, why do I give emphasis on peer review of course outcome statements? Because it is important that course outcome statement be peer reviewed every year when the course is offered, and effort should be taken to modify the cognition levels and teaching methodologies such as case studies, etc., to stay relevant with the current business scenario. And not only that, when we frame, but of course, it is in the flexible hands of a teacher to create course outcome statements. But at the same point of time, when we take a peer review, now what is peer review? People who are around me, the other faculties, once you have created it, show it to them, let them read your course outcome. What will happen is you will get a fresh perspective from them as well. So the moment you do a peer review of your course outcome statement, you of course you brainstorm, you talk. So in these lines, a lot of clarity comes into picture in terms of planning your teaching pedagogy. Now, these are few samples that I've just incorporated. The first one is we'll just read. This is a course outcome statement example. Sample number one talks about understanding HRD strategies for long-term planning and growth. यहाँ पे action verb is understand. Now, understand कहाँ से आया? Understand is nothing but the cognition level that we were talking earlier. Knowledge क्या है इसमें? HRD strategies for long-term planning and growth is the knowledge that you want to impart. Condition is none, criteria are none. So that's how it is also a very good course outcome. Understanding, a student will be able to understand HRD strategies for long-term planning and growth. Sample number two, this is again another course outcome statement from another course. It talks about identify the scope of international business and country attractiveness impacts on business model. So here the action verb is identify. Now identify comes from the family clan of analyze. Analyze is again a cognitive level of cognition that we have involved here. Knowledge is the scope of international business and countries' attractiveness impact. So these are two core things that one needs to suffice. Condition is that you have to use it only on business model. So this is something that the syllabus asks. The condition is given by the syllabus. Okay. So yeah, that's how you are going to prepare your course outcome statements. As far as lesson plan is concerned, you need to have CK matrix and syllabus in place. The total teaching number, learning hours calculation is done through lesson plan. Each course must be taught for a minimum of 3 hours per week during the semester term of 90 days as per university norms. For about 13 lectures of 3 hours each or 26 lectures of 15 hours each must be well planned in hand before you start with your classes. This is again a specimen copy of a lesson plan. So as you can see, when we talk about better lesson plan making, here we have got planned completion date. So this is a tentative date on which you're going to take your class. Plan details, it talks about the unit or the module number. Topics planned, so topics planned, how it is planned, there that you have to write down. Again, for each topic, what are you going to do? Activity and content delivery. You're going to have an interactive class, you're going to have a lecture, you aligned some activity for the same. For how many number of hours are you going to take care of these things is mentioned here. Course outcome, which course outcome is aligned? So here I have given the code to my course outcome statement. So 108.1 is my course outcome number one, and the cognition aligned to it is aligned to the same is majorly it is analyzed, but I have taken the student through first giving an understanding and then taking them to the higher cognition level in unit number one. Similarly, you will see unit number two may again we have analyzed, unit number three may we have higher cognition level of applying. That is how we have prepared the lesson plan. In fact, each one of you who is seeing today's session can actually take a screenshot of it and try to create your own lesson plan with respect to aligning it with the course outcome and cognition levels. Next come is deriving bright and weak learners. It like the moment I say teaching pedagogies help you cater to different spectrum of learners. It is important for us to derive bright or weak learners in the class. Okay, क्या होता है? The moment you derive these distinctive categories of learners, you will be able to modify lesson plan, capture better outcome-based learning experience, and set realistic targets for achieving your course outcomes. Okay, for that what you can do is what we basically do at our institute is that we basically take basic intelligence test and subject aptitude test, which we very formally call as BISAT test. Okay, now what happens in BISAT test is usually in the first class when we go and when we introduce our syllabus and modules and lesson plan to the students, in fact the course outcomes as well. We take the basic tests. यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि with this test we are able to derive out bright weak learners for a particular course, as well as it helps in terms of the moment I get bright and weak learners, the output basically helps me in terms of attaining course outcome target setting, and also help me revise my lesson plan. If there are more weak learners, I will have to down my cognition levels. and if there are the majority of the class is towards the better end, the bright learners, of course you're going to use better cognitive level of learning. BICET again typically has taken off 10 marks, which has predefined weightage given five marks given to general aptitude test. I request somebody is on mute. Unmute. Can you mute yourself? Yes. So, and the other 5 marks is given to basic subject aptitude test. A faculty has to set standards, keeping the nature and criticality of the course in mind. And let's say, for example, students securing 60% or above in the BISAT test will be considered as bright students, whereas students securing less than 59% will be below or below marks in the BISAT will be considered as weak learners for a respective course. Now, coming to modifications, the moment you have this understanding of how is your class, what is the category of class, there are more of bright learners or there are more of weak learners, you can make modifications in your lesson plan and course outcomes accordingly. Okay. The last is we are going to talk about is course outcome target setting. यहाँ क्या होता है कि the targets basically are set for each course outcome depending upon the different bright and weak students statistics. And of course, if you are already in the process of outcome based education, then you also take last year's attainment targets which were driven earlier. So using these two things, you can set your targets, and but setting of the targets for each course outcome has to be aligned separately, followed by the justification that you have to mention across. And targets are set considering class average percentages. Later on, again, converted into levels of attainment. Now, as you can see, sample showing table target setting for all POs. Here, again, the code for each course outcome statements are mentioned. We have got course outcome statement. This is a specimen copy for a course outcome specimen for international business subject. Here, targets are mentioned in terms of percentages as well and levels as well. Now, I have purposely written this thing because different institutes have a different mind frame in terms of how they are going to keep the target, and a lot of discussion does happen so as to whether they should be keeping class level percentage directly, or they will be creating those class average percentages into levels of attainment. Okay, for as far as targets are concerned. So at here at RGCMS, we basically have acquired the levels of attainment as targets for our course outcomes. So, quick revision of what we have seen today is that teaching pedagogy is basically a method for teaching development of higher cognitive skills among students. Bloom taxonomy, as we saw, and which basically involves different types of knowledge as well as the different types of cognition levels, gives you a clear understanding of which is a must for which basically forms basis of teaching pedagogy with respect to OBE. Step one, you review your syllabus. Step two, you get into the activity of cognition knowledge matrix. Step three, creation of course outcome. Step four, create a a proper lesson plan. Step five, derive your bright and weak learners in the class. Step six, modify your course outcome and lesson plan if as per the spectrum of learners in the class. And step seven is your target setting. Set targets in terms of percentages or levels, whichever your institute feels right for each of your course outcomes. Once this is done, you start teaching your course properly, and at the end, when examination happen, assessments happen, you basically complete the loop with respect by creation of documenting the whole process of learning by creation of course files. Okay, so what am I going to do is, tomorrow when we meet again for the session, I'm going to take you ahead out of this, wherein how to create your course file, how do you document the work that you have done in terms of aligning pedagogy with respect to OBE, right? That we will be seeing in tomorrow's session. So at this point of time, I would like to rest here, and I would like to invite questions for the same.
Thank you, ma'am, for very informative session. Now I request audience to kindly raise the question if anyone has any doubt. We can get it clear all your doubts. Any query, any questions on the session taken by ma'am? You can write in the chat box, or even you can unmute yourself and ask related
Thank
to
you all.
the.
I find that people are they feel that it was a good session. My
Yeah,
only thing, I also invite questions. People, you can all ask questions in the chat section. But I insist as faculties that this is something, if you are not from an institute or from a college which is currently practicing accreditation, teaching pedagogies and having a clear understanding of it will always make you a better faculty year after year. So this was just a particular hand in terms of developing our own selves also. Tomorrow when we meet, I'm going to take you further. So, yes, ma'am.
yeah, ma'am. Anyone is asking the question? I think so. Everybody's doubt is clear. But anyway, ma'am.
Hello,
Uh,
ma'am.
yeah, we have. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah, this is Sandhya Sawan. Ma'am,
Go ahead.
teaching
Yes,
pedagogy is not something like that. It is, a format. According to the student, according to this, the level of student understanding and the syllabus and the subject, we can change as per our understanding. Is it okay? It
right,
is
ma'am.
not
Right,
exact the
ma'am.
pattern that we have to follow, that somebody has, this pattern has made and you have to follow according to that. I think it should be changed as per the student cognitive level and the subject knowledge of them, and at the same time, the environment of the college and everything we have to take into
Exactly.
consideration. Am I right?
Right, right. But you're completely right, Sandhya ma'am. It is completely right, and I always say that when a faculty is given a particular subject, he is the master of that subject. He is somebody who is going to go in front of the class. He or she has an understanding of the class, how the children are. In fact, for that matter, when I talk about teaching pedagogy, it is not. It is also something that usually Indian education has, depicted in terms of using one language. But I always say that, when we go as teachers in the class, you need to give away whatever is your plan, whatever is your unit, or whatever you want to impart in front of the students. It has to go into their head. So teaching pedagogy is that. And if you have to be flexible, be flexible. If you have to change pedagogies, change pedagogies. Make use of multiple things so that they don't get bored, and they are well in, whatever concepts you want to put forward to them, it is well inculcated. So yes, Sandhya ma'am, you are right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes. Anybody else for any question? See, audience, if you'll ask the question, many of our doubt also will get clear along with your questions, because we also came to know because of Sandhya ma'am's question that how the pedagogy can be more enhanced in a better way. I think so, ma'am. It's done for the day. No one is.
Great, ma'am. I think they are all faculties. We
Uh,
catch things very well, right?
very well.
So,
Yeah.
and yeah, I can see a lot of people have appreciated the session. Thank you so much.
Session.
It just encourages
Even
the other end also.
I can read also
Okay
the
then.
message. Yeah, ma'am.
Sure,
Then
ma'am.
I'll start with my vote of thanks with due your permission.
Sure,
Yep.
ma'am. Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. Very good noon to everyone. It has been since an honor to be the part of the wonderful event. On behalf of Chandrabhan Sharma College of Arts, Science and Commerce, I, Dr. Anita Pandey, would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the esteemed guest, Dr. Fardeen Ahmed. Thank you, ma'am, for the enlightening session, which help us to design our teaching pedagogy more betterly and customize and tailor our teaching learning experience as per the child requirement. Even the excellent knowledge which you have shared about the boom taxonomy and especially the matrix, which we Chandrabhan Sharma College is going to use it. All the faculties agreed to that excellent session on it, and how to structure our course outcome. These all briefings will enhance our teaching learning experience. I sincerely thanks to management and principal ma'am for providing such a platform to enhance our knowledge. I also thanks faculty development committee who has handled the event throughout. And finally, I would like to thanks all of you who are present here for making the time to be with us today and helping us to make this event a grand success. Thank you, everyone. And tomorrow we will be meeting at the same time for the next session. And I request everyone to rise for national anthem.
विनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड शुभ नाम तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय जन गाए भारत भाग्य जय हे जय जय
Dear audience, feedback form is sent in the group. Kindly please fill the feedback form. Feedback form is sent in the WhatsApp group. Audience, please fill today's feedback form. Today's feedback form is given in the WhatsApp group. Everybody is requested to fill so. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, we have not
Ma'am,
received
it is
that
given in the
book.
chat box also. You can check over there. The feedback form
Okay.
link is given in the chat box also and on as well as in WhatsApp group.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Even in the YouTube link also you get the feedback form link. You can check over there also. All the three places the links are provided. All the audience, all the faculty members are requested to fill the same. Cotton ball.